Have you ever noticed how a delayed text can change your entire mood? Or how one compliment can make your day, while one small criticism stays with you for hours? Maybe you've found yourself replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. Maybe you've worked extra hard to be helpful, understanding, or easy to love. And maybe, beneath all of it, there's a question you've never fully asked yourself. Why does acceptance feel like something I have to earn? Most people assume this is insecurity, but psychology suggests something deeper. Sometimes the pressure to earn love begins long before we ever realize it's there. Maya discovered this on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She had just finished a job interview she'd spent weeks preparing for. The building's glass doors slid open behind her as she stepped into the parking lot. The sun reflected off windshields. Somewhere nearby, a car alarm chirped. The interview had gone well, at least, she thought it had. Then the interviewer smiled and said four simple words, "We'll be in touch." Nothing unusual, nothing rude. Yet as Maya walked to her car, something tightened inside her chest. By the time she sat behind the steering wheel, tears had started forming. Not because she knew she'd been rejected, not because anything bad had happened, but because she suddenly realized how much her sense of worth depended on someone else's decision. One sentence had the power to determine whether she felt valuable or invisible, and for the first time, she wondered why. The answer didn't begin in that parking lot. It began years earlier. Most of us don't remember the exact moment we learned what made us feel worthy. The lesson usually arrives quietly. A smile after good behavior, praise after achievement, attention after performance. Maybe someone celebrated your accomplishments, but struggled to respond to your emotions. Maybe being helpful earned approval. Maybe being easygoing earned connection. Maybe you learned that your needs created tension, so you became the person who needed less. Children are remarkable observers. Long before they understand psychology, they become experts in patterns. Imagine a little girl standing in a kitchen with flour dusted across her hands. She proudly holds up a lopsided cookie she helped make. For a moment, she watches the face of the adult standing nearby. Not the cookie, the face. Because children quickly learn that faces contain information. Approval, disappointment, warmth, distance, safety. Every expression becomes data. Every reaction becomes a clue. Without realizing it, children start adjusting themselves to preserve connection. They speak differently, behave differently, need less, achieve more, not because they're manipulative, because connection feels essential. To a child, belonging isn't a luxury. It feels like survival. Years later, the kitchen disappears, school ends, life moves on. But the lesson remains. Maya didn't cry after the interview because of the interview. She cried because something much older had been activated. A familiar feeling, the feeling that worth depends on performance. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as conditional self-worth. It's the belief that your value depends on meeting certain conditions. Being successful enough, useful enough, pleasant enough, productive enough. At first, this mindset can look surprisingly healthy. People with conditional self-worth often appear responsible, reliable, hardworking. They're the ones who remember birthdays, show up early, help others move furniture, check in when friends are struggling. From the outside, they seem confident and capable, but beneath those strengths is often an exhausting fear. The fear that if they stop performing, they might stop belonging. And this is where the brain quietly joins the story. Imagine your brain as a security guard. Its job is to protect connection because, throughout human history, connection meant survival. If your early experiences taught you that acceptance was uncertain, the security guard becomes extra vigilant. It starts monitoring everything. A delayed reply, a shorter text, a change in someone's tone, a canceled plan. Most people barely notice these things. But your brain notices immediately, not because you're weak, not because you're overly sensitive, because your nervous system learned that small signals matter. The security guard is trying to prevent loss before it happens. The problem is that this constant monitoring becomes exhausting. You begin spending enormous amounts of mental energy, predicting what other people need. You rehearse conversations before having them. You analyze conversations after they've ended. You become skilled at reading rooms, skilled at adapting, skilled at making other people comfortable. And over time, something strange happens. You become so good at earning approval that people start admiring you for it. But inside, you're tired. Because there's a difference between giving from love and giving from fear. From the outside, they look identical. Both people are kind. Both people help. Both people care. But internally, they're having very different experiences. One person gives because they want to. The other gives because they're afraid not to. One person believes connection already exists. The other is trying to secure connection before it disappears. One person is sharing, the other is proving, and proving never ends, because there is always another achievement, another expectation, another standard, another opportunity to wonder whether you've done enough. This is why people who feel they must earn love often struggle to fully receive it. A compliment arrives, and part of them questions it. Someone offers support, and they immediately want to repay it. A friend listens for 10 minutes, and they feel guilty for taking up space. It's as if every act of care comes with an invisible invoice. Not because others are demanding payment, because the old lesson still exists. Love must be earned. But here's the insight that changed everything for Maya. The healthiest relationships don't operate like scoreboards. Think about the people you genuinely love. A close friend, a sibling, a child. Do they have to impress you every day to deserve your care? Do they lose value whenever they make mistakes? Do they need perfect performance to remain important? Of course not. You care because they matter, not because they've successfully completed enough tasks. Yet, many people hold themselves to a standard they would never impose on anyone they love. Everyone else is allowed to be human. They must be exceptional. Everyone else receives grace. They must earn belonging. And that's where healing begins. Not with becoming perfect, not with eliminating insecurity forever, but by questioning the rule itself. Maya started with small experiments. When someone complimented her work, she stopped immediately, explaining why it wasn't a big deal. When she needed help, she practiced asking. When a text went unanswered for a few hours, she resisted creating stories about what it meant. None of these moments felt dramatic. In fact, they felt uncomfortable, like using a muscle that hadn't been used in years. But something important happened. The world didn't collapse. Relationships didn't disappear. People didn't suddenly stop caring. Instead, Maya began collecting new evidence. Evidence that she could disappoint people occasionally and still be loved. Evidence that she could have needs and still belong. Evidence that her worth existed before her performance. Weeks later, her mother visited her apartment. Looking around the living room, her mother smiled and said, "This place is so neat." Normally, Maya would have absorbed the comment as approval. A small reward, proof that she was doing well. But this time she paused. Then she said something simple. "I like how peaceful it feels." The moment felt surprisingly significant, not because of what her mother said, because Maya had referenced her own experience instead of borrowing someone else's evaluation. For a brief second, she felt an old instinct pulling her back toward approval. Then she felt something else, relief. The kind that arrives when you stop carrying a weight you didn't realize you'd been holding. The truth is, healing rarely arrives through dramatic breakthroughs. More often, it arrives through small moments like these. Tiny decisions, tiny experiments, tiny acts of self-trust. And over time, those moments begin creating a different story. A story where love isn't a reward for perfect behavior. A story where your value isn't determined by productivity, usefulness, or approval. A story where belonging doesn't have to be purchased through performance. There will still be days when the old patterns return. Days when you overthink a message. Days when you seek reassurance. Days when you catch yourself trying to earn what you already deserve. That's okay. Healing isn't about never returning to old habits. It's about recognizing them sooner, responding differently, and remembering a truth that may feel unfamiliar at first. Your worth did not begin when someone approved of you, and it does not disappear when someone doesn't, because genuine love was never supposed to be a prize you win. It was never meant to be a reward for getting everything right. And maybe the most important lesson of all is this: you don't have to spend your life proving that you're worthy of love. You can begin learning how to receive it,